he was. Originally he wasn't, then he was, so I'm not
We'll find out.
So I figured we'd start anyways. I'm calling to order the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee meeting. We're at the Central Administrative Conference Room, and it's 4:30. All right. So everyone just want to go around and say who they are. We'll start with you, Jen.
Okay, I'm Jen Lee, I'm a school committee member. Hi.
Hi. I'm going to make you introduce yourself as you're running in.
Carolyn Johnston, Principal at Quinnesset.
Leslie M. Powell, Director of Finance.
Robert Jones, community member. Steve Tamborelli, community member.
Sherry Kennedy, school committee member. We do not have any citizen comments. The minutes are the second page of the agenda. So does someone want to make a motion to approve the February 2nd, 2026 meeting minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Third.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All right, so the first thing is just reviewing the FY26 budget year to date. And we got a lot of backup from Roseanne, so
And I will say,
I did not print it all out. I figured everyone would bring
well, I
to save
think
some trees.
most people here, we prefer to have all our stuff on our computer anyway. So the budget for fiscal 26, the budget year to date, was sent out this afternoon, very late, I apologize. But I was reviewing it again now that we had, when we were closing out February, we had a lot of invoices from January and a lot of different things that came in that month. So I wanted to rerun the numbers and make sure that I had the most up-to-date stuff. So I was waiting for the end of last week for him to get the last of the invoices in so that I could have the most current numbers. So that came out this afternoon. And it's through the end of January. So now that we've closed out February and he's done that, I'll start working on the February one. So just a quick hit where we're looking at what we're looking at right now. The budget to actual does include projections, so I've projected out both the revenue and expenses. Right now, we are looking at having revenue in excess of $326,982.57. Now I will say, keep in mind that if we do have extra revenue, typically what will happen at the end of the year is that $500,000 that we had reappropriated, some of that would then get reappropriated back. So that would change, some of those transfers would kind of change the numbers that we're looking at now. But if we were to keep the reappropriation as it is, with that $500,000 in there, we're showing that with everything else, we would have an additional $326,000 in revenue, and that is primarily from the tuition from other LEAs, so from our CTE programs, and then from our investment earnings. And then just a small increase that I'm predicting for Medicaid revenue. So really just three main areas. And we had talked about that during the budget. We have 10 additional CTE students that we were not anticipating during budget time. And if we think that the tuitions are roughly anywhere from $15,000 per student to $18,000, depending on the district that they're coming from, that $163,239 is pretty close to in line with those 10 additional students. And then we've talked about the investment earnings and kind of where we think that's going to land. So that's the revenue side. Does anyone have any questions on the revenue piece? Fairly straightforward. No? Okay. So because I've done projections, I've done a roll-up for the expense side, but I have included an account detail. I sent you, just because of short notice, I did send you the PDF of it, but I will forward out the Excel spreadsheet so that you can see the full account detail. But I did just want you to have the quick hit numbers for the meeting tonight. So one of the things that I want to point out is we discussed at the last budget meeting on February 10th how there was still some work we wanted to do with the salary and benefits because it was showing a fairly large deficit on the benefits side and a fairly large surplus on the salary side, but the two of them kind of washed each other out. So I had a feeling that there were some things that maybe were either pulling or the way some of the encumbrances were hitting may have been hitting in the wrong line items. So the numbers that you're seeing now are cleaned up, and I'm happy and confident, with those numbers as they're showing now. So in the salary line, we are, as is right now, anticipating a surplus of about $450,000, which is in line with the open positions that we've had from the beginning of the year. So there's very little that I am concerned about, even though it does seem like a big number. That 500,000 seems like a big number. Things to consider in this line item is we do have those 2 bus driver positions and those 2 bus TA positions that we are purposely not filling. So there is money that was budgeted for them that is now not being spent, which is close to $200,000 alone, just for those combined positions. So what will typically happen as we get closer to the end of the year is that we would do a budget transfer from that salary line and put it in that transportation line, because it's really paying for our buses right now. So you'd see that number be reduced. It would balance out, because we'll take that budget number out, we'll take those positions out, and then that'll kind of wash, so it'll give us a better representation. But I wanted to keep it in here now, so that we remember and we understand, because we haven't fully determined what's happening with those positions yet. And for the benefits, you're gonna see kind of a match to what we have for open positions and what we have for benefits. The difference is gonna be that some of the positions that we have open are not benefit qualifying, so the number's not gonna be like a 1-to-1. But it's a pretty close match to what's open and what we think we'll have as a surplus for benefits. And I know those are, we've been kind of watching them closely, and we've been looking at them because we've had some big surpluses in those areas. So before I go on, does anyone want to talk in more details? Does anyone have any specific questions about that? Okay, for purchase services. So right now, we are projecting a deficit in that line item, but actually 2 of the items that would fall within that category are items that had previously been approved during last budget session to be paid for out of fund balance. So right now, if we're including them and we spend based on our encumbrances that we've had, these through 7 months of the year, we would need to then transfer that from that money that we'd allocated from fund balance into that account to eliminate that deficit, but we won't do that till the end of the year, so that if there's any offset, we're only gonna transfer the amount from fund balance that we need to transfer from fund balance. So that deficit that's showing, I don't have any concern, because I think that's right now part of the roughly $500,000 of things that we've purchased through fund balance. So that should cover that. Just examples of what is included in that 110 would be the $75,000 for the redistricting that was approved. And I believe it's either the cameras on the bus, it's the software, it's the service part of the cameras, and the visitor badge, I
Yes,
think,
yep.
is what's in there. So that's what make up that 110. For the professional services right now we're showing that we would have a surplus of about $38,000, but I am anticipating that is going to go right out the door with the snow removal fees that we will now have.
I was just gonna say, I'm like.
So those snow removal fees are not factored in here, and our budget for snow removal was $23,000 for the entire year. We probably spent that in 2 days. So I anticipate that number changing significantly. For the transportation line, right now, we have a $52,000 deficit, and that is just based off of what the current bills for statewide are that we've had. I'm projecting out, but again, we're still trying desperately to get our bills. I think we've gotten through November now. So I'm taking what it was for September, October, and November, projecting out based on that volume, knowing that there are flux throughout the month as we have different ridership. So I am going on the high end of those. I'm using the higher end of the invoices to do these projections out, just so that we're fully prepared, as opposed to taking the smaller number. So if we stay on target with these bills, we'll end up having, we'll be over.
Are they typically like a quarter behind? Is that?
No.
No, okay.
No, we're just
I didn't know if that was just
we're
something
having
new.
a tough year with getting these things. And, I'm trying to remain cautious because when I look at like what they're anticipating for next year, it doesn't really line up to what the bills are for this year, so I'm still trying to gauge where we're gonna be for next year, because we haven't gotten those projections yet. But again, I could be over projecting for this.
Or under.
Or under, because as we learned last year, you know.
Yeah, it might be better over project, just in case.
So, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take the high end of those bills and say that's what I'm anticipating from now
Yeah, no.
for the next couple of months. Supplies, that's pretty straightforward. I mean, we'll use, we usually unencumber a fair amount toward the end of the year, but nothing, like, I think 13,000 is pretty reasonable for what we'll have left in that account. Equipment, this looks a little scary, negative 382,000. But again, there are items that are within this line item that were already approved to use for fund balance. So this would be student Chromebooks, any of the hardware. We have some Granicus hardware. We have hardware that came with, maybe it was the visitor badge also. Like there's, some is in software, some is in hardware. There's the VX Rail that was purchased, there's the DA server, there's a number of items that are falling within there that are getting us to that 382,000. And then we've got fees and dues, those look pretty spot on. I think we might even, like if we start thinking about field trips and things that come at the end of the year where we start seeing some pickup, I would say that we would probably, that $39,000 difference will probably go away pretty quickly. Just based on, we have a better idea once April hits and they start planning out and booking out for the end of the year and what trips are gonna happen, I get a better gauge on about how much of that we'll spend. So, right now, just as we're looking at with these projections, we anticipate having a surplus of $564,631 for the end of the year. Now, again, this is not taking into account any transfers in from, for any of these things that we've said we're gonna use for fund balance. But one thing to consider again is that we have done that transfer, that reappropriation at the beginning of the year. If we do not do that, if we say, we didn't need to do this reappropriation, we're gonna, do that transfer back to fund balance, we would end up at zero. So what we're showing as a surplus, we would put that $500,000 back, we wouldn't have to draw any of the money out of fund balance that we had said we were going to a budget, and we would end up balanced, we would end up zero. Now, that being said, there's still a significant amount of things that we were going to purchase and that said we were gonna purchase through fund balance that are not in there yet, that haven't happened. So this is gonna change. This can certainly fluctuate over the next couple of months, but we're keeping a very close eye on what we're spending. A lot of the things that we had said we're gonna apply the use of fund balance, because we were pulling it out of the budget last year, have come in under those budgets significantly, which has helped to kind of offset it and not look as, way out of whack when you're looking at the numbers of the negatives here. So, like for example, the DX Rail was $50,000 under budget. The Chromebooks came in $60,000 under budget. That adds up very quickly. So, even though it looked like we had this large amount that we were gonna be transferring in, I don't anticipate us transferring in that original amount from the budget. I mean, we will probably have to at some point, but I think it's gonna be significantly less than we were anticipating, just because I know like Chaz has done a fantastic job of sourcing things and having things come in significantly under budget, and his was the largest piece, yeah. And then we had other things that were in that budget, like paying for the 2 buses, which were $200,000 that we thought we were gonna have to use, that we were able to pay for last year, with the surplus, so right there, that's $650,000 alone that won't be coming out. So I think right now we're in good shape. I'm still keeping a close eye on that salary and benefits piece to make sure that is in line to the open positions we have. But, anything can change, as we saw last week.
I was just gonna say, good thing we have a little buffer for the snow removal.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about anything in particular?
Well, just to be clear, Leslie Ann, what you're saying is, even though we increase the IT equipment line significantly, you're currently able to cover it within the existing budget. You do have the $500,000 potentially
Yes,
to cover it, but you are able to cover it within the existing,
right
right now, I understand,
yeah,
right
right
now.
now, yes, what we've purchased from IT and what we have and what we're looking at, because of the cost of those items coming in
Correct, so
significantly
that's
less.
part of it,
Yeah,
and part of it is we have savings in other areas.
correct,
So again, it just leads to the point that we were here last year talking about big IT purchases and finding structural offsets to do it. Again, we still have a couple more months, but clearly there's also that opportunity to fund these IT purchases without dipping into fund balance.
correct, which is what we are trying to do in fiscal '27, which is why the Chromebook items are back, the Chromebooks themselves are in the operating budget. Some of the server items are in the operating budget. The items that we removed were kind of one-time, non-operational items, like the changes to the labs at the two middle schools, where we have to update antiquated, items, but we shouldn't anticipate having to do that. Probably by the time we would need to, we wouldn't need the computer labs anymore. And then really what we tried to do this year in IT was look at what do we need, how can we consolidate things? So what, Chaz did was he looked at getting certain softwares that will cost maybe $15,000 more, but allow us to eliminate 3 other things that combined were $65,000. So we were able, after looking at where we are now and looking at what we needed and how we could be more strategic with it, get a lot of these items that we took out last year back in the budget for fiscal '27. We only removed, I think it was the teacher, the
Teacher Chromebooks.
teacher Chromebooks and the lab.
The lab and the smart.
Oh, the
board?
ViewSonic boards,
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah.
And the ViewSonic boards, they've been in the budget for the last 3 years and they keep getting pulled out and they keep getting taken out. So this year, it's important for us to do that for equity so that the schools, there are some schools that don't have all of the classrooms that have these boards, and we need to get all of the classrooms to have the same items. So we've decided to pull that out because once they have them, we shouldn't need to repurchase them. So it is a one-time purchase. So we really tried to keep anything that was operational or that we were gonna need year after year in the IT budget. So that is our goal. And again, it has certainly helped that our supervisor of IT is, the way he sources things is unbelievable. I mean, he really does take a deep dive and try and make sure that he is getting the best possible pricing for the district in whatever we're doing, whatever combination, but also still having the same outcome and still same quality of what he's doing. So that has certainly helped us be able to do that with the budget this year. Any other questions? Concerns? No? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so the next thing was review FY '27 budget. I know you wrote a comment about the enterprise funds.
No, the enterprise funds are fine, it's the special revenue
It's
funds.
special, sorry, I knew it was one of them.
That's okay. Okay. So I'll just do, because you mentioned it, so the special revenue funds, so those are our grants. These typically, they are total dollar amounts that get reported to the town in how, in what we anticipate for revenue and expenses for special revenue funds, but it's typically not done at this point in the year. This kind of happens later on in the process. And that's typically because at this point, we really have no idea what our funding is going to be. And what we have historically done in North Kingston is that we report on what, as level funding. So what our revenues and expenses have been for this current year is what we report for the following year. And then if we have any adjustments, we then send an updated report to the town, letting them know that if there was like some crazy thing, like what happened this year where they said, oh, just kidding, you're not getting funding this year, we had to notify the town and say the numbers that we reported were based off of, our level, expectation of level funding. We do not anticipate receiving that. Instead, we anticipate receiving X, Y, and Z. So right now, there's no budget to review.
Again, I'm just confused because the town charter says that the town manager's budget must include estimates, which the budget is, for all, doesn't just say the operating fund or the general fund, anticipated revenues and proposed expenditures. I understand what you're saying is, we don't know, so I just don't understand why you're not presenting an actual budget that level funds everything and maybe level funds the expenditures, so you meet this requirement. I mean, like, it's not in town charter that says some revenues and expenditures.
We did not
Every
present
other,
it last year.
every other school committee has presented budgets that include the special revenue. I mean, the families who get Title I and Title II and Title III services need to at least know what you're budgeting for, not at some point in the future.
Well, we do provide it, and it's not, I don't think in the way,
Well, right, but
That
has the
you're-
school committee approved that to forward to transmittal?
We
the
did
budget?
not present it to the town council last year, and it's my understanding that we will not be presenting it this year. If the town requested of us, we'll put it together, but right now, it's not something that they've asked for.
And we get our grants in around May,
Mhm.
and so we always, we put our grants together for the CRP then, and we bring that to school committee when
And
those
that's when
grants
the-
are
and they
available.
approve it like when the actual grants.
And that's what we
Right,
did last
yeah,
year as well.
You get your state aid in May and June, the budget either. All you have now is a governor's proposed number.
Right.
And yet you are budgeting off of that. I'll just again repeat my objection that we should follow town charter. I understand you're saying we have a better budget. You'll have a better budget in May too, when you get the state budget. I just don't understand why you're not laying out, at least in aggregate, here it is. If the town council chooses to ignore it, well, that's their business. But I mean, I just don't see how you interpret town charter in any other way when it says all anticipated revenue and expenditures. Grants and funds go through the town to the school.
Mhm.
So you're just saying that you wish that there was some more added to the budget?
I'm
That's
just
all?
saying, part of the transmittal to the town should include the special revenue amount, even if it's in aggregate. Here's what we anticipate in revenue, and we anticipate expending all of it. Whether you wanna do a detailed budget's a
Well, and
separate
we
issue.
have all that within the grants we have from our grants that we have this year, of where our grants are, and, I mean, those grant numbers that we have right now are from what we received last year for this current school year. That's what we know. We don't know what next year's grant will be until May,
Correct,
when
Kenny.
they are released.
You don't know what
So-
your state aid will be until the
No,
General
but-
Assembly
but we-
approves the
but
budget
we
and the
do
governor
have
signs
the
it.
But we do have the governor's budget, which is released, and that's what we use for now.
Right,
And I feel like well, I know the Title I can swing quite some from year to year, and it.
right,
and it-
right,
you
so
know.
can the budget. I mean, again, I am just making the point, this is what town charter says.
I think your
If you
point has
choose
been
to,
made, and
right.
I think the position here is that we hear you, we understand what you're saying, but that's not the direction that this committee is going in, so your objection's been noted.
Okay. And on the enterprise funds, again, my point simply is, did the school committee approve all the enterprise funds?
We have not
They
approved
have
them
not
yet, they're
approved them
coming
yet.
before us tomorrow night.
So we're not gonna make any advice on them?
I don't know, do you have a comment?
We haven't got to them
I don't
yet.
have them.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do. They were all
They were
set.
emailed last Thursday.
Ah, yes. Okay,
And that's what you're gonna go over,
Mhm.
too, because
okay.
Yes, so no, I made sure that, and all of them, including the nutrition fund, which we were still kind of, I still had some questions on, because with the storm.
why don't
our-
we get into the enterprise funds and start going through those
Okay,
right now?
I mean, so I will reiterate to the committee, what was presented on February 10th to the school committee, because nothing on them has changed except for gate receipts. So we'll do that one first. Gate receipts, the initial document that was presented to the school committee included what our current spending was. So in fiscal '26, we had made the decision to transfer the uniforms line out of the operating budget and put it into gate receipts and spend, and we have done that. It was successful. We've spent 29,000 of the 30,000. We had 2 items that were requested from the athletics director as items that could potentially be purchased out of gate receipts in order to do a spend down. One was a sound system for $15,000, another was storage containers for $20,000. And then during the budget meeting on February 10th, we and the committee decided that we were going to again extend what we had done in this current year, which was take $25,000 out of the rentals line for the operating budget for athletics, and we put that into gate receipts. So I've made that adjustment on the document that you all have to show what the reduction would be, what our anticipated 15% cost would be, and then what the unaudited preliminary ending trial balance would be with that spend down. So we would be ending the year approximately with $39,000 still in that account. And you know, that's still, there's obviously still a balance, but the intent was to make sure that we had money in that account available should we need to buy certain, you know, whether it be capital items or things, for example, like the storage containers or the sound system that need to be upgraded. So I wouldn't recommend spending it down any farther than that. I've noticed, I had made the comment that I noticed that our revenues seemed to be down in this last year. There was some discussion about that perhaps it's just kind of the way we're collecting some of that information, so I'm keeping a very close eye on it to see if in fact revenues are down or if it's just how the revenues are getting to the finance office. But my recommendation to the school committee, my recommendation to this committee would be to keep the rentals in that we had taken out of the operating fund. I do think that we should move forward with the storage containers. I think it's an important, it would be an important and necessary addition for the athletics teams for us to stay organized, to keep some of the newer equipment and items that we're getting safe and secure. And I think it's a good first step. I think they had wanted originally 5. This would cover the cost of 2 or 3. And the sound system is necessary. I know we did go out to RFP, it did go through, but I think, you know, we have some additional information now that we didn't have from the last RFP that would make it more successful. So my recommendation is to keep it as is, but I'm happy to hear and take any comments and make any adjustments before I present tomorrow. Now, I have, just to be in line with the Secretary of State, this has been posted as is for school committee, but obviously if we make any changes, that can be adjusted. So if there's any comments or suggestions out of this meeting, I can make those. Anyone?
It's just on that enterprise fund.
Correct, this is
Yes.
just one,
Yeah.
so.
Yes.
So, do we need to make a motion to bring this as is to school committee or no? We don't need to do
No.
anything like that, okay. So, but then without any comments or questions or concerns, this is what I will be presenting for approval tomorrow night. Okay, gate receipts. And go over, I'll do the quick ones first. Computer repair. What was presented to the school committee, actually at both meetings, this has not changed. The recommendation was to move technology-related supplies that are specific to this computer repair out of the operating budget and put it in this enterprise account because this is what we are spending that money on. So based on the revenue that we receive from insurance and revenue that we receive from students when things happen, that income that we receive every year should be enough to sustain that budget. And last year we did have, or excuse me, current year, we made the decision to take money out of operating fund and purchase, I think one of the servers and some of the laptops with the funds in order to spend down the account. We have done that. Some of the purchases happened in 2025. Some of them have happened in 2026, but everything that we had said that we were gonna purchase has been purchased. So the balance has been reduced to roughly $8,000 and we anticipate getting an additional $20,000 to $22,000 in revenue, which would offset that expense repair line of $20,000. So that is my proposal to the school.
I would make a recommendation that an expense be added to support the CTE program at NK High School by offering a funded internship opportunity for high school students who I believe need the internship as part of their CTE requirement.
Yeah,
I believe it's 80 hours, correct?
yeah.
So times minimum wage, sorry, would roughly fall as, my math, but about $12.80, somewhere around there, that you add $3,000 as an expense for CTE high school student internship opportunities.
I think that's
Can
a great
you-
idea, but can I just say one thing? Is that okay? So I took a teamship class that we have to replace the internship, but I did have the opportunity to go to a meeting that was set up at Prepare I Internships, which basically if I could have applied and been selected to do an internship just like that, but it would be awesome to do other opportunities like that, but we do have some support and some connections with, so sort of relationship with Prepare RI that we do have some weight in that.
But this might benefit students who have less transportation or other opportunities, right? And would be support the CT program for students who maybe, right, need one internally.
So I love the idea. I'm not sure the computer repair enterprise budget is the right spot for it though.
Well, I don't think it could support it either. I think that the bigger issue
Yeah.
is that I don't think
And
it could
that's my other
support, and I just
question, are
don't.
you just talking about one?
One or two?
How would you pick?
No, that'd be the administration's job. How do students get internships now?
Well, I mean, how would you pick who would get the paid internship?
That would be the administration's
Yeah.
job.
I love the idea of funding it, like, I'm totally on board with that, but I'm not sure paying for it out of the enterprise budget for computer repair is the place. Like, I would much prefer discussing that as part of another,
Well, I assume part of what those students would be doing is learning computer repair.
but why just computer repair? Like, why
Right.
couldn't it be another, like,
Well, they'll
CT?
also learn other stuff in the function of being repaired. Like, this is a holistic thing. I mean, you've used it for non-computer repair stuff admittedly already in here.
I don't think so, it's
No,
been
we
computer
haven't.
related.
Well,
It's
you
related
bought-
to computers. What would,
We've only used it for technology
Yeah.
related supplies
Correct.
or equipment.
This is a technology-related internship.
But
I
I'm
think-
saying, like, why not a like, so what about the music CT?
Yeah, that's
students?
where I think-
That's my point, like,
I would think if you could operate it in that too, that's a separate discussion. I don't know if the music CTE requires an internship. I do know the computer one does.
So
I
I'm
think they
gonna,
all
I'm gonna
have to
jump
be
in with a
available.
problem. So we can't hire anyone under 18 because we can't do a BCI. We had this problem when we were hiring our high school students as monitors. So if we're gonna give them a paid intern, they're working for the school department, they require a BCI. Under 18, you can't get a BCI, which goes against that policy and state law. So we just need to consider if they're doing internships, because I've had conversations at the high school as well, of getting our high school students more involved in what we're doing here, especially around communications and business and doing, some PR through our communications department of advertisements and all. They can do that as an intern, part of the school, but not as a paid intern, and it can still count as hours. So we can't hire our students.
Unless they're 18, correct?
Right, only if they're 18. And that was the same problem we ran into with the bus monitors, so.
A lot of the students, they really ask you to do it between your junior and senior year to do that.
so it'll be a small amount that are actually 18.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea, we just run into other problems with hiring them.
Well, and
for
I
working
think
for us.
too, there are other outlets, I would have to look into this a little bit more, but I feel like when we start, because it would have to be a selective process, it's not something that we could then offer to every student. We would have to have a selection process. I feel like instead of it being in an enterprise, it would fall more under a scholarship.
that's what I'm thinking, like, why
And,
not add a
and
scholarship?
I feel like that's a
line?
totally different
Yes.
thing, those are student activities, the way the
Mhm.
scholarship funds work. So I think the idea is good, and I think that it's certainly something that we can look into. I
Mhm.
just don't think we can do it in this capacity, because then again, Jen, to your point, like, we have an enterprise account for the musical, we have an enterprise account for athletics, like, why wouldn't I feel like we would have to think about,
I would
Doing
much
it
if
for
we have an
each
athletic
one.
CTE, but we would
like
have
a
to.
scholarship line in our operating budget or something like that, cause I love the idea, like, I'm totally on board with that,
But I'm with you, and then how do you choose to say one area is more important, critical than another?
correct.
If you're going to offer internships, I think it needs to be across the board.
Yeah.
Right, and
Yeah,
that,
for all the
are we
CTEs.
only offering it for the CTE, computer students because we have an enterprise account? Well, then that's not fair to any of the other categories where we don't happen to have an enterprise account that funds them. I mean, we have like a STEM camp one, we have all these things, so we would have to think about doing it across the board. I mean,
But
it
it's a
is-
great
it is-
concept
Yeah.
Yeah.
to explore, I think.
And again, making sure we're doing it in the right capacity, like if it's a scholarship, is this something that's in our operating fund, is it something that's a student activity fund, is it a straight scholarship fund that is like, you know, North Kingston School Department CTE scholarship, and the kids have to apply, and they have to, and it's just a certain amount of money, but it's open to any CTE student for any
Right.
program that they wanna do, or any internship that they wanna do, and we're paying them for it. Maybe they might get an internship outside of the school, but the scholarship is gonna pay for them
For
to do
that
those
internship,
hours, whatever
yeah.
it might be. So I think there's some more thinking that we
Yeah.
need to do into it, but I like the concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's, and so just going back to the computer repair, fundamentally, I just don't think we can support it. I mean, I think we're pretty tight and we're pretty lean with the budget that we have right now. I know one of the things that was talked about, which is exclusive of this budget, but we were talking about potentially increasing the cost of the insurance because the actual equipment repair is now getting to be more expensive, that perhaps we need to increase the cost of the insurance even slightly just to cover those. So I do know that's something that Chaz and I are looking into, so that we don't run into a problem where it's no longer self-sustaining.
Right,
It's not
right.
supporting itself, so it's, but that's, again, if we, after we finish our research, we'll obviously bring that back either to this committee or to the school committee and talk about what we wanna present, but that is something that we are thinking about in order to, help make sure that this account maintains itself.
Yeah, or even sometimes too, like, we could figure out other marketing ways, cause maybe even just increasing more parents doing it, cause I don't know what percentage. Might be something like what percentage of parents actually do.
We have a good amount of people that do participate with it, but I do think like we haven't, the cost of, the cost out to parents has not changed in
Years.
many years. Many
Yes.
years.
Yeah.
And so, and when you think about the cost of the actual items and the parts and the
Yeah.
things that we're repairing, that has increased exponentially compared to what we're charging people, so. But more to come on that, and we'll obviously present it once we have complete information. But if nobody has any other questions or concerns, I'll be prepared to present this as is. Musical. So again, no changes from what was presented, both, I think we presented this, was this the 10th or the one before it? I apologize, I don't remember. Yeah, I have so many meetings.
Yeah.
So the musical, the only thing that we had talked about in terms of really any changes were more for fiscal '26 and not for fiscal '27.
Right.
The budget, kind of as is based off of, they're looking at the show and the number of shows that we're doing this year, but what we anticipate doing next year is gonna be slightly different. So, some of the expenses are reflected in what they think they're gonna be doing differently for '27. But overall, based on, the revenue and expenses, it looks like they'll have a little bit of a cushion, a little bit of carryover for them to be able to have money to buy the show for fiscal '28.
This one makes me a little nervous. I knew we talked about that in the meeting. It makes me more nervous now because I know the fundraiser got canceled. I probably
So
gonna
the
reschedule
fundraiser is not
Mhm.
canceled, so they
Rescheduled.
rescheduled it to May, so that's still happening. The concern is that it's only that they have and we have, is that
Yeah.
it's a 1 week
the
show.
1 week show. Yeah.
And so there's only 4 showings instead of 6,
Yeah.
so that's gonna bring in less revenue.
I also feel like with the fundraiser being in May, there may not be quite as much like imminent,
Well,
like.
hopefully there will be, because one of the things I know, and just in talking with the group and with the advisor, the fundraiser is not just for the play, the fundraiser is for the music department
Okay.
in a whole. So they're trying to get more involvement from everyone, so they're even thinking with it being outside of the musical, more people will get involved in it, because it's not just during the
But if
time of the
they're
musical,
doing-
but this
So
is a
does that mean
fundraiser.
they
Because
just
gift
split
and
the money?
donations shows zero.
What?
Gift and donations lines
So
show
they just
zero.
split
Well,
the
that's
None
what I
of
was
the
just
Well, it
gonna
goes,
say
it
is
just
that,
goes into what
None of the
the needs are,
fundraising
most of it goes
shows.
towards the musical, but it's for the music department, and the musical brings in musicians. and
But does
part
that,
of
is that, so is the fundraiser money going to the booster club, and is then the intent that the boosters are gonna be offsetting some of the costs from the musical, cause,
So the fundraiser, the money from, mine's in the money from the fundraiser, right, is through the boosters, but goes back into what the needs are from the musical or any other, music events throughout the
So they
year.
would pay for stuff outside of our budget, or
But
the
that's
music
not,
budget.
is that reflected in the budget?
But it shouldn't be, because it's the booster club.
No, it's, if
no,
you're
but
reducing
the
an
budget, the
expense.
budget that we have right here should be
But we don't know what that exact
what
expense
we are
would be until
anticipating the full
fundraiser.
cost
Yeah.
of the
Correct.
musical being and the full revenue. So like, for example, like if the booster club actually collects the revenue from the play, they are required to provide us with the entire amount of the revenue, and then
Oh,
if they've
okay.
had any expenses, we pay the booster club back.
You do, okay.
So any money, if there's money that is anticipated to be brought in for this, that we have to figure that, like if there's money coming from that fundraiser, that's essentially a gift and donation from the booster
So,
club.
but my understanding is, in talking to Catherine, when they do that fundraiser, right, that fundraiser, the music booster
Mhm.
that is for the music department, right? So it's, the musical is part of the music department, as well as any other music events they do, and other, my understanding, other field trips they might do within the music department for competitions, or if they're traveling anywhere. That booster club donates to those programs. So you
Or-
can't say if an X amount comes in from this fundraiser, it's all going to the musical. It's going to, they provide those funds for whatever is happening through the music department, because sometimes there's the
No, that's
competitions
what I'm understanding,
Right.
so that my concern
it's
is
not
that
a-
I'm even more concerned.
Yes, me
Because
too.
this fundraiser is
So
now
the
for the
fundraiser is
musical
not
department,
just for the musical.
so then I have some concerns in terms of, we know we're not gonna bring in the same amount of revenue because we already have 2 shows that are less. So then, what we need, and again, we had the meeting on February 10th, then we had school vacation, then Snowmageddon. So I know that there hasn't been a lot of discussion in terms of the fiscal '26 budget, but we do need to think about what those expenses are, because part of the budget for fiscal '27 being successful is the understanding that we are going to have enough money come in from fiscal '26. Because if they have a loss again, they have zero wiggle room in the budget. We are within like a few $1,000s of what they had left over in fund balance going into fiscal '26. So I do think, knowing that this, I originally thought when you were talking about the fundraiser, that was a fundraiser for the musical. Knowing that it is not, we cannot count on there being funds at all for that. So this needs to be, again, self-sustaining. So we just,
Leslie, I'm sorry, I'm just confused. You have 2026 year to date, and every line is 0 except supplies. Have they not bought the rights to the play? Have those expenses not been incurred?
they absolutely have under
So
Oh, but did they
supplies
buy it
musical,
in-
$7,000.
so that supply music is the rights to
That's the
play.
rights to the musical right there.
So there's been no other expenses so far going into the play?
At this time, no. They don't,
Well,
so,
that was submitted to you, you mean for this current?
that's what I'm saying, for,
this year?
for right now,
Right,
when
so
this was pulled in
January,
before,
right, so
Alright.
this is through January 30th?
no, this was pulled, oh yes, this is, I updated it, I'm sorry, for the February 10th meeting, or February 3rd meeting.
Well, that's what I mean, is
Yeah.
like, they
So-
probably wouldn't have bought stuff.
No, there's
Yeah.
things, they probably have not been invoiced for anything.
That's what I meant,
So
yeah.
a huge chunk of what happens with the musical comes in after the musical is done. So we'll get invoiced from the musicians, from the costumes, from the equipment that was rented, from that. That all is gonna come in afterwards. So,
Correct.
and they don't
You don't
go in
encumber
and encumber it,
anything?
no. No, they typically don't. I will say this, we've come a long way,
Yes,
even having a
yes,
budget
yes,
for this current year
yes.
and for next year. When I started, there was
Correct.
there was nothing. In fact, we were in a
Enterprise
giant
fund.
deficit. We were with this account, and we've had to work our way here. And so I am very happy with where we are now, just in terms of the amount of information that is coming back and forth. I mean, when I started, they typically didn't put anything in the system. Even expenses weren't recorded. So starting last year, we have them. They're going in as they come in. So before they would hold everything and just do one big giant expense. Now, the expenses, as we start receiving and we understand we have invoices and things, those are going in the system. We're checking them against the budget. They're doing budget transfers to make sure that things are going in the right line items. So,
Oh, I totally agree with
but I'm
you.
saying, getting to the point of encumbrances, I feel like that might be a next year thing. I'm gonna be honest.
No, understand, I guess my concern is knowing that, if, for example, your budget lines for gifts and donations show zero. I mean, it's sort of semantics of, they're using it for this, not using for this. Gifts as a whole need to be acknowledged by the school department and school committee and allocated appropriately. So, as I read this budget, none of that is going to offset expenses to the musical. The sounding is sort of, it's like one big pot that comes off.
What are you what
Well,
do you mean about gifts and
If
donations?
there's fundraising that is,
But
Then a
what
portion
what
of
he's
it might
saying is,
go
the
to the
fundraising
musical.
is not for
Right,
the
a
musical.
portion will
It's
go
for
to
the
that
music
number.
We
part.
don't know what
do
it
that.
is. I
see,
mean,
that's
maybe next
exactly
year
what
we
it
should
was.
ask them, like,
They don't
could you give
go-
us an estimate?
They have a big pot and a little pot that's the
But,
enterprise
so
fund.
what we have done, so the boosters is totally separate from our enterprise fund. Our enterprise fund, we've now budgeted out, so it's no longer just a big pot of, you've
Right.
got $20,000 to spend on musical. It's, this is how it needs to be allocated, and the anticipation is you're gonna make enough revenue to offset it. Like, it's no longer just a large pot of money. And what we started doing with the Booster Club last year, in order for us to track it, is if the Booster Club is purchasing any items or doing anything for the musical, they are purchasing it. They receive our revenue. All of the revenue comes to the school, and the school is paying the Booster Club for the services that they have paid for with those invoices. So there's no gift and donation. It is as if it is a service from the Booster Club. That is what we were doing so that we can accurately track. Okay, there's a gentleman at the door who keeps looking in, sorry.
Does the Booster Club pay sales tax?
Is is the Booster Club a nonprofit?
Because,
I think they're a nonprofit.
I think they're a nonprofit, but we still follow all of our same policies with, we pay based on the invoices that they submit to us that they have paid on our behalf, because sometimes also, like, the Booster Club is like, we need this thing right now, we're gonna pay for it, we're gonna get it, we're gonna do it, and then as long as it follows our purchasing policy and everything that we need, you know, we'll go in it that way, but I have never just received money from the Booster Club, like, they've never just said, we are giving you X amount of dollars for this.
Is this the first year they're having a fundraiser?
No,
Mm-mm.
So in the past, have they had a fun, so basically what they probably do are pay, they're actually buying
Booster
actual
Club is
things
probably-
versus giving us a donation.
Right,
Right.
the
They might have
Booster
covered
Club-
So they're
something.
The
donating
musical
the-
boost,
they're
the
donating
music
what they
booster
buy.
club does not just say we're going to donate an X amount of money
Right.
to the musical or to other music events. They're there to support them, but they can't fully fund it. So if from, I'm just gonna say September to now, right? There's things that might need to be purchased. The musical booster club might make that purchase for the high school. And then, once all the revenue comes in from the ticket sales, reimburse the booster club. Other times, they will make make a purchase, as far as like, we're gonna cover X, but
Yeah, it's like a
typically,
donation, but it's not,
we, as a school
cash.
department, fund most of that expense.
Where's that line in the
yeah,
budget?
exactly, because you still have to accept the
And
gift.
that's what comes from.
If it's a curtain for the stage, the school department still has to accept the gift.
oh, like where, right, like so if they're buying, even if it's just random, like costumes, I'm just using something, like wouldn't they have to say they donated that to us even though they
Yeah,
paid for it?
yes, they would, and so what I'm
So
saying
how,
is
but I don't know how
last
you would
year,
put that in the budget, cause it's
last
not
year
really
we
a number.
didn't have them unless there are items, again, that they are purchasing that are not being reported to us. Last year, what we did is we did not have them do that. If there was anything that the Booster Club purchased, we received those invoices and we paid them for it. There was no donation, there was no gift, we paid for those items. So that we could get on track and have a full understanding of what the actual cost and expense was for these musicals. Because we had issues in the past where if the Booster Club was paying for something in the one year, then they didn't pay for it another year, we didn't have a true representation of what this musical was actually costing, and unfortunately, we got into a fairly substantial deficit with the musical in 2024. So what, in working with Ms. Finkelstein and with the teacher who handles the musical for last year, and what we wanted to do this year was for us to be paying for all of the items, so we had a true representation of what it was.
So in future years, what you have that historical data to then say we have a cap or this is what we're gonna budget for
Yes,
this year?
that
But
is.
we don't have that yet.
We don't have that because we need to kind of build it. It didn't exist prior, and we had. It's kind of think of it like a sports team, like it's like a rebuilding year.
Sure.
And then I think once we have a true representation of what it is, we can say, okay, this is what we are going to budget. This is what the musical can support. If they then choose to do a musical that's going to be more expensive, or we're gonna have that, that's when the Booster Club would have to come in, that's where we would have to have some gifts and donation. That would have to be a line item, because we're saying, you're doing a musical that is going to be substantially more expensive than you believe the revenue to be that we can do. It's gonna be outside your budget, how are you gonna support that? We're gonna support it with donations from the Booster Club. Okay, then that line item gets added. That's the hope.
And then just to tie, you said you had concerns, and I think Jen said the same thing. The concern is that this $45,000 budgeted for revenue in '26 is not gonna be $45,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, and that was, this was only a relatively recent finding in that we had a conflict, just so that you have the background, we had a
Yep.
conflict with when the play was going to be happening,
Yep.
musical was happening, and so we had to reduce it by 2 showings.
Okay.
And so that, that in and of itself, and I don't, were they like, I don't remember what days
was
they,
it?
the
So
shows
we
that they
didn't-
couldn't
we
do,
didn't-
were
Right,
they?
they didn't, well, they didn't know until the start of this school year,
Mhm.
so back in in September, that the Rhode Island All-State Music Competition was scheduled for the same time frame when we do the musical, and a lot of our kids are part of All-State, so we couldn't schedule the same weekend. So because of that, the play was shifted, so the play, I believe, is a little bit earlier this year, and it's only for one weekend, it's this weekend coming up.
But in
Versus
theory,
it was-
you can,
For 2, and it was a little bit later in March in the past.
So it's, yeah, it's 2 less shows, but ultimately,
but in
nothing.
theory, you have fund balance to reappropriate if you needed to.
From the musical?
No, because here it's showing you entered fiscal year '26
We had
with
six,
a
we had,
positive fund balance.
yes, we had $6,000.
Right.
Right, and like, and that,
So that's a hedge you could dip into.
if we had to, but this enterprise account used to have a fairly healthy fund
Right.
balance, and then they went very negative, and we had to reappropriate money from the capital fund to build it back up, so, yes, if we needed to, we could dip into that, but then we run the risk of
Correct.
running a negative fund balance again, which we don't want to do. The hope is, and we've talked about this with the principal and the director of the musical, that because it's 2 less shows, hopefully our expenses will be reduced accordingly, because we'll need the costumes for 2 less days, and we won't need the equipment for as much, and we won't need the musicians for as many shows, and so the costs themselves should also be reduced, and their goal was to look at what those expenses were gonna be, because we haven't paid any of them yet, and how we can reduce it so that we can make sure we stay in line. So we've gone into this knowing we are gonna have a reduction in revenue, we have to offset it with the expenses, we have to be very smart about how we do it, so, we just have to, it's unfortunate that it's a little bit of a waiting game to see what happens, we don't know until we start selling tickets and see how that plays out, no pun intended.
And I would think in a few weeks, the play's next weekend,
Mhm.
So
so,
we would,
in the next
I'll have
2
an
to 3
idea.
weeks, have an idea of what revenue is, and then they'll have all their expenses that they'll be able to start submitting to us.
And when they're doing things for musical, like even though I'm not seeing it, like the principal and the teachers who are directing the musical, they know when they go out and they're getting equipment or costumes, they've created this budget, we've created this budget together. They're very aware of what they have in those line items and the money that they have and what they have to bring in. So, I don't think that they're out there being like, I know it only says we're gonna spend $11,000 on professional services, but I'm gonna spend 25. They're aware of this budget, they've seen this, they know this, we've built this together, so, I'm very hopeful that they are, paying close attention as we're going through this process, the closer we get to the play.
yeah, because where before they didn't even have a budget.
No, it
to
didn't
look
exist,
at.
so
So
that's what I'm
I
saying.
think that was probably the
This is,
problem.
and the fact that we can have these conversations and the forward thinking of our revenue's gonna change, we need to adjust it in plenty of time, it wasn't like oh
Oh, no.
musicals this weekend and we didn't think about this. So I do think we've come leaps and bounds from where we were even just a couple of years ago, so.
Yeah, agreed, agreed.
And then in terms of this is a '27 discussion, right? that
Yes,
we're having
yes,
right
yes,
now.
yes. Mhm.
So in terms of '27, we don't see any of these issues coming back up next year in terms of
I-
same weekend
I
conflicts
don't
and things like that?
believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we won't know what the all-state schedule is until then, but, I mean, I know this year they pushed the musical forward to avoid that,
Okay.
Mhm.
so. I know I think their hopes is to go back to the 2 weekends.
Yeah,
And,
this is the first year it's only been one, it's
Yeah.
always been
Yeah.
two,
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm. okay. So just thinking ahead for tomorrow, are we comfortable with presenting this as it has been seen by the school committee before, just for the purposes of the 27 budget and being approval? Or do you want me to make any adjustments to the 26 line items, or do we wanna not open that can of worms?
Yeah, I think we should leave it until, I mean,
Cause we just
we don't really know,
Yeah.
and, you know, I feel like it'd be too hard to try to guess what's gonna happen when the music
I
class
mean,
isn't
the
happening
only
yet.
thing that we could possibly do is take 45 divided by however many shows there were and do
15.
it by however.
And
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking too.
Yeah.
$15,000.
and adjust this actual document by,
Yeah.
So, yeah,
45
would be 30.
so I would then have to, and I don't know if I can get this done by tomorrow, I would then have to have a conversation with the musical director to ask them where she sees a reduction in her expenses. Because if I change the $45,000 revenue, we're gonna be showing a deficit, which I would then have to roll into the 27 budget, which I can't put forward a deficit budget.
But then
for
it's making
tomorrow.
an assumption though that we're not gonna do 2 weekends next year, which I think they do wanna go back to.
No, for
They're just talking
26.
about for-
Right,
which-
but if we
Oh.
don't make enough money and we have a deficit,
Oh, I
I would
get
have
it.
to carry that forward and I can't put forward a deficit budget. So, and I'm not trying to do
Yeah.
anything like untoward with this, but since there's so many unknowns in this, but I do wanna make sure I have the approval of the committee to move forward with it as is, with us all knowing that the likelihood of getting that 45,000 is.
Could you do a
Slight.
percentage of the 15,000 across all the expenses?
Do you know if they increased the price of the tickets?
They
You did a
They
little
did.
bit.
Okay, I wanted to say I bought my ticket, I thought it was a little
Yeah,
more.
no,
Yeah,
they
it is,
increased
yeah.
the price of the ticket, knowing that with less shows, but that's not a guarantee that it's
Yeah.
actually
Right.
bringing more money, because now the ticket's more expensive.
True, but I also feel like with the one weekend, you could also get more people, like, you know what I mean, like, the shows might be more sold out or closer to capacity than in the past because there was so many shows to choose from.
I know, they were always sold out.
Yeah,
Oh.
they're pretty full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I defer to you guys, but if, it doesn't make sense to me to put $45,000 forward if you know you're not gonna get the 45. I'm not trying to make more work for you, cause I'm.
And no, and I'm confident with 45,000 in fiscal 27.
Yes,
For the
100%.
27
Yeah,
budget.
no, I'm just saying.
It's the 26, and obviously that
And
snowballs
that was
because-
already approved last year.
It was already for last year, so if we were gonna change the
So
26,
the
wouldn't it
26
be?
budget was approved last year.
Yeah, if we're just
So-
having a 27 discussion.
Right, well, I mean, so the only
But it changes the
consideration
opening
is it
fund
changed the
balance.
beginning fund balance, because if we don't make that 45,000 and there's any change to that, our beginning fund balance for fiscal 27 may not be $16,000.
Yeah, so we're
It may be
saying-
6.
I was gonna say, we're saying that we would reduce, let's just hypothetically, right, we would reduce, you said 15,000, cause I can't do that math
I
in
mean,
my
I
head.
can then reduce the opening fund balance by $15,000.
Could you do that?
I could.
Without having to balance the 26 budget?
All right, so hold on, I'm gonna do
Okay.
this little exercise while.
It'd only give us $1,000.
I don't know. All right, so minus, I'm gonna do it
You
in
said
my
we're going
computer
from 6 to
right
4,
now.
right?
So
6
by
to 4.
doing that, it
64
would make
shows.
our,
There's 4 shows this year, in the past it was 6
So
shows.
it's just flatline that you're taking 45 to 30.
yeah, so if we brought
But
that
the
down, if we
ticket
brought the
prices went
revenue
up.
to 30, we kept our
It
expenses
was,
as
it was
is.
48, that was
It's
48,000
gonna dip into
they
that
brought
fund
in last
balance,
year.
it's gonna leave us with a beginning fund balance of $1,800.
What was the percentage the ticket price went up? Does anybody know that? Because you could, in fact, you could offset it by that too.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. So you just don't wanna start that low?
But I think that's realistic, I really do.
Yeah, I think that might actually be
I-
better to do
I
that.
don't wanna show us going into 27 with a $15,000, especially knowing that we had a year where we had to, like, where we had a deficit.
Mhm.
And,
So the only,
Right, so if our sales were the same as last year,
mhm.
and this year's only 4 shows, it's 32,266. That's an estimated number of what we'd be bringing in.
Right, because the ticket price went up. Or you're going off of 48?
I'm going off of the 48,399.
Right, which was ultimately what came
Which was
in.
out of 6 shows.
Got it.
Right.
So divide that out by each show and then times.
Yeah, so you're reducing
4
it
shows.
13,000, not 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that
Yeah,
makes
so I
sense.
almost think that's better, like do 32,266.
So I mean, I can just make it an even 32, I can reduce it by $13,000, which would be the loss of the 2 shows, we
Mhm.
can say. Keeping our expenses the same, which I
Mhm.
hope they are not, that would leave us with 38,613 as our opening fund balance. And that's assuming, so when we look at that 48, just so you all know, when we look at that 48,399, that number already has the 15% removed from it.
Okay.
Because we do that right up front.
Yep.
So that's a safe bet, like we don't have to think that there's an additional
Yeah.
15% that has to be pulled out somewhere else. So I can put that forth, which would then, that leaves us with 3863, and I'll be honest, that's not even enough money in the fund balance for us to purchase the rights for a new show. So we'd have to end up going into the negative throughout the year, knowing that if we had the same expenses,
Or the Booster Club makes a donation to help
purchase.
purchase. Yeah, I think you should just.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then the Booster Club could just
Okay.
make a true donation.
All right, I'm just gonna do a save as really quickly and just enterprise budget, I'm just
I
gonna
mean,
call
and
this.
who knows, maybe
1.1.
like it'll be wonderful, the expenses will be lower, we'll sell out every show and things will be okay, but I think thinking that we're gonna have a $15,000 buffer heading into next year is not realistic.
I don't think it's realistic. I'm happy to do that, if that is the recommendation. I've made the change in the document already. Kenny, I will get that to, Jules to
So-
update for tomorrow.
So what did you do, you reduced it by how
I
much?
reduced it by 13,000.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to reduce the opening fund balance for 2027 by $13,000.
Motion to, can you say that again? Sorry.
Reduce the opening fund balance for 2027 by $13,000.
Second.
I'm gonna put a comment in this document too, just so that, you know.
Did you say opening balance?
Opening fund balance for 2027.
And you want me to put what the amount is?
So the new fund balance amount is,
Yep.
would anticipated, again,
Right.
we're like going way down the rabbit hole here, but the anticipated fund balance, opening fund balance would be $3,863.19.
Okay. All right. All right, I'm gonna say motion to reduce opening fund balance by $13,000, which would make the new anticipated fund balance $3,863.19. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just remind, we have to end at 6 o'clock because the building subcommittee is starting at 6.
I just wanna make sure that all of that, made sense. I should be okay with that. I will just, again, go through all of my numbers tomorrow before I put that forward, just to make sure that those quick little adjustments I made sense. If there isn't anything, I'll make it accurate to what we've talked about, to that $13,000, and make sure that all the numbers align and
Okay,
everything's fine.
awesome, thank you.
Okay. Okay, the last one would be the nutrition account. Do we wanna go over nutrition?
God, no, it'll take us forward.
That's what I'm saying.
I just have one quick question,
Sure.
just so I understand.
Mhm.
The budget includes hiring a assistant child nutrition supervisor with benefits.
Yes.
But in the school committee overall FTE roll-up, it says this fund is actually losing 0.5 FTE. It's going from 19 to 18.5.
This new position is not included in that document. So if we look at the operating fund.
Yeah, I'm not, because this is funded out of this fund.
Right, no, I'm saying, I know it, on
Right.
the main salary document where you're
Yes.
talking about where I included grants and food
Yes.
service, right, I included that as a reference. Those numbers are based off of, because this has not been approved, I did not change anything in the operating fund because this wasn't approved to say we're adding this position, so I did not put it,
So
as
is
a-
total FTE for, in the food service going up or down?
It'd be going up.
no, it's staying exactly the
I see.
same.
If-
Because we would be reducing by one position and adding another, it's not changing.
But you're reducing, for lack of a better word, a more operational person and replacing it with an administrative type person. Is that correct?
Yes,
Because
right, because it's.
I don't have
it's
any
the-
kids in the school. I'm
Yeah,
just
no, no,
saying,
I'm
I'm just
saying
saying,
yes,
is there
because
any
it's
issues
a-
with food service time and delivery and stuff that you can
School committee
eliminate?
has not approved this yet, so.
Right, it hasn't, it
I'm
hasn't been
just raising
approved,
the
so
question.
nothing has been
We
done.
have many questions about
Okay,
this.
then
Yeah.
let's move on.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna address it more tomorrow. Okay.
Yes,
Tune in.
and,
Well,
one
no,
of-
if it's gonna be,
Yeah.
then I'd have the same point, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Dr. Juva, do we wanna talk about the presentation for tomorrow, what we're planning on presenting for tomorrow? And make sure that this is
I'd only say if we're gonna make any advice,
We
and
would
if
make
we're
any
not,
changes or
then-
anything?
not
or-
changes, but I just wanna, I don't know about what we're gonna present in terms of the budget.
Yeah, I mean, we have the enterprise accounts tomorrow. I mean, that's all of the enterprise accounts. You talking about the nutrition?
I'm talking about
Yeah.
nutrition in terms of what we're gonna put forward tomorrow,
Yeah,
do
so
we need to
tomorrow-
talk
so-
about?
Honestly, I would
you
not
don't
waste
need
time
to.
discussing it because
Yeah.
it,
Okay.
We're going over the
the
budget
school
tomorrow
committee
night.
has
and
multiple
then-
questions about nutrition, and I wouldn't waste time discussing it here.
Okay.
Cause you're gonna have to go through it all painstakingly again tomorrow.
Jen's just saying she doesn't wanna hear it twice.
Thanks.
I think I'll feel sick tomorrow night.
Alright, so I am gonna call it sick tomorrow. If anyone's looking for me, I'll not be here. Okay, so
But we'll
then-
sail through the other ones, how's that?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, moving on then. We won't even go with it.
All right.
Okay,
So the next one, it was just a bunch of discussion requests, I called them.
that's fine, and I know some, I provided, backup where I could, some of it I didn't have anything that I could provide, so, but I'm happy to discuss if there's, do we wanna go in order, is there anything like since we have a half an hour, is there a level of importance
We have
that,
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
we have 20
We have
minutes?
20 minutes.
Based on who submitted these requests, is there
Since I
some-
submitted,
You submit 'em.
I think all of them,
Okay.
You
is that
did.
correct? Then I would
I
say.
was gonna put
could
your
we-
name, but I didn't.
Could we start with 7C first?
Sure,
So my understanding is, this is the items you said you took out of the
Correct.
thing,
mhm,
but they're one-time purchases.
correct.
So purchases will be made on these items.
Some of this, not all the 400,000. So of that $400,000 reduction, some of it was straight cuts that we've determined we no longer need.
Okay,
Some of it was cuts that we've made because we've, I don't wanna say been more thoughtful, cause he's very thoughtful about everything he does, but we've looked at
We
how
just
we.
reanalyzed what
We
was needed for
reanalyzed,
this
so
year,
like
Right.
we're doing
how
something
we
different
do
with
those purchases.
cybersecurity that would flat out reduce the need for certain other softwares that we've been paying for. We also eliminated, one $35,000 item that we do not need to do.
correct, I'm just trying to understand that
Yes,
a
so,
portion is just structural cuts that.
correct.
That are thing, is there
Mhm.
any portion that is not structural, that is not being cut, that still needs to be purchased?
So that would be the ViewSonic
And the intent is to purchase them with
Fund
current fund balance in what year?
2027.
So you're not going to, in the budget, show a reappropriation of fund balance in order to make that purchase? Or you're gonna wait to see if you have surplus for 26?
So typically, for anything that's being purchased as capital, we wouldn't do a reappropriation. It would be an appropriation to our capital account from
Right.
fund
We
balance.
noted in that line.
Right, so because everything that we're purchasing here is a capital item, it would not go here, it would go into our 3201 account. So it would go from fund balance to 3201. So it's considered a transfer, not a reappropriation,
Got it.
because it's not coming back into our operating fund.
Yes, I just wanted to make clear that we weren't just cutting stuff that we would have to buy thing, but there's actual structural cuts,
Yes, there were actual
Okay.
structural cuts with that. Mhm.
okay?
Which one do you wanna do
somebody-
next?
Yes.
Yeah.
You get to
Yes,
say
I
which
would like
order
to
you wanna
do,
do.
then I'd like to do 7D. and I know this will be discussed, hopefully, here in an hour, and it'll be discussed tomorrow with the school committee with the stage 3 approval, but I think for the public awareness and clarification, since the stage 3 documents weren't posted for the public to see
No, they're all on our website.
now,
It's all, they've been on the building advisory website since last week.
okay?
And so the stage 3 submission.
That would be helpful
is
instead of
all on the,
thing,
so
but,
the stage 3 submission, just so we're aware of that, well, I can't talk about it, it's not.
well, let me just ask my question, Kenny, and then you can say whether I'm incorrect by reading just the stage 2 addendum. Is that the current proposal does not include building out the Wickford Middle School athletic fields.
That's correct. So on that, the athletic fields is in alt right now.
Correct. And my understanding is the
And it's very,
cafeteria
and
will.
it's very common in
I-
the building that the athletic fields are in alt. until-
Understanding, what I think I'm trying to get at is, when I'm pretty sure the public voted for a new Wickford Middle School, they probably assumed that there'd be athletic fields because that was shown to the public. And then if we're gonna build a cafeteria that has an auditorium capability, that there would be auditorium equipment. And so my purpose for this item is to recommend in the interim, because again, what's on the 2024 bond project page says items, 4 million to come from either fund balance or cost savings, which from the 137 is probably not gonna happen, let's be realistic, is how are we ensuring that if there's no money left over, and that there's dedicated money to build out the fields, because I'm pretty sure the public will want that.
Mhm.
And so my motion is that the school committee reserve $750,000 from the current fund balance dedicated towards Wickford Middle athletic and student student co-curricular capital. Because I don't think the public will want to see an auditorium that can't be used, or athletic fields that sit there undeveloped.
I agree, and we've been discussing this at the school committee level for that exact reason.
So that's my recommendation.
I agree with you. Where did you get the number from?
Trying to price out from the alt ads. I'm not saying it's an exact number, I'm saying, I'm throwing it out there just as a starting point. The school
I'll
committee
second a
is
motion to formally request that the school committee discuss allocating money, but I'm not comfortable seconding a motion with a figure attached to it.
I agree, because I feel like we probably would need a number, but
I mean, we've been having these discussions already, we've mentioned it multiple times, but I have no problem seconding the motion to make it an official item on the agenda, but not with a number attached to it.
Well, I guess my point is approving the stage 3 without it being as just an alt ad.
I mean, regardless, this item won't go on the agenda for tomorrow night, so it's kind of a moot point from a timing standpoint, because that's on our agenda for tomorrow night.
Well, then I would withdraw my motion and make a recommendation that the school committee task the building advisory committee to come up with.
Same thing, like any motion made out of this meeting won't
I
go on
understand that.
anybody's agenda. So you could put it out there for the universe and maybe somebody will have the conversation, but officially from a motion standpoint, procedurally, just timing wise, it doesn't work.
I understand for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I guess I can withdraw it if the point is tomorrow in your stage 3, you would expect potentially that conversation to come up, and potentially the school committee might have that conversation.
100%.
so it's on our agenda tomorrow to discuss.
It's on tonight's agenda, it's on tomorrow, and I'm just trying to, I
Okay.
was just trying to open something and everything is off our website.
So I guess your motion is for us to discuss, and we actually are gonna discuss it
No, I
tomorrow.
withdraw my motion. I am
Okay.
just making sure that I'm somewhat guessing that most of the public is not aware that
I hope they are, because
Well,
we
I
have
hope so too.
repeatedly.
We've been having
This-
many
We've
conversations.
repeatedly
It's something
mentioned
that's
it.
been
Dr.
discussed.
Juba has
Yes.
communicated it out to the
It's-
public.
This
I mean,
stuff has been on the adults for a while now, so.
Yes, Kenny, I'm just saying,
Well, in the last
I read it
presentation
on
that we
page
had, the architects here,
one
it was
hundred of a
discussed.
1,000-page document.
No,
Well, it's also
It-
been in presentations that have been reviewed at the building committee, presentations that have been reviewed at the school committee, it's been put out there.
And not just reviewed,
Not
I
in
mean, we have
Mark's documents,
specifically named,
conversations.
because nobody is happy about it. Everybody is aware that this is an issue, and we have specifically articulated it in meetings. It has been communicated out specifically in correspondence that Dr. Juba has sent out to the school community. I mean, I understand that you can't make people read or listen what is communicated, but it is not something that we have tried to slip into page 900 of a 3,000-page document.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying, I guess, is a lot of discussion and no proposed solution yet.
Not yet, no.
But at least it's being, like, we're discussing it, it's not like we just ignored it.
Correct.
Okay. 7B. My question on the momentum rent is going back and looking at the number, as I read the discussion, the number was developed, if I'm correct, from the Director of Student Services, that's the correct title. My motion would be that if the rental agreement is renewed, that a more detailed study of actual market rents and the opportunity cost of the classroom be done to determine a more appropriate market value rental.
It's, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that the idea was not to make money on this, it was to provide a service.
Right, it wasn't, the main goal was not for revenue. I mean, that's, again, a conversation that we can have
Yeah.
with the school committee regarding that, but it was to be able to bring the service in the building for the
Correct,
students.
but it's a
that are there.
for-profit company, and you can make that argument for anyone who wanted to bring services to the thing. My question is simply, if the company can't provide the service they are providing the service in other locations at much higher market rents. And so you are giving up the classroom, which could be used for expanding the pre-K program, which a year ago you mentioned in the development of the DAELC, that there would be an expansion of the population. So there's an opportunity cost to giving it to them at substantially, probably below the rate you could have used as a thing. My motion is simply that I understand we're not looking to gouge them, but it is more than appropriate as good stewards of things to charge them at least your opportunity cost of the facility.
Happy to explore, happy to second the motion to explore it with the understanding that we did not enter into this as a money-making venture.
Correct.
Can I just ask a question, because this is something I don't know, is the location where they are, is it an actual, are they in a classroom, a space that is meant for a classroom, or are they in one of the smaller office spaces in a building?
I thought they were in one of the smaller ones.
I'd have to look at
I
that.
only ask because if we're looking at opportunity costs about making into a classroom, if the room that they are
Right.
in, or
Even-
wherever they are, is not,
Actually, I mean, it really,
classroom
they're not
space.
taking up space that is preventing us from expanding the program. So it doesn't matter if they're in a classroom space or they're in a half of a classroom space. They're not taking away, they're currently not taking away space that is preventing us from expanding.
Okay, my motion still stands.
I will
to
second your motion.
Can you repeat it so I can write it down, sorry?
just
Motion to,
recommend that the school committee task the superintendent, because that's what they do, to look at an appropriate market value rental in anticipation of a renewal of the momentum lease.
Ken, maybe the real estate agent you're supposed to hire for this can handle that one too.
not funny, not funny.
motion to recommend school committee task the superintendent with appropriate market value rental for renewal of Momentum's lease. Alright, Jen, you're seconding
I
that,
second that.
alright. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
My last item on 7A is simply thank you for providing the data, Leslie,
Mhm.
is that in looking at the FY '25 audited roll-up for the 9/30,
Mhm.
is that the salary line was 43 million, just barely over, 43,026. If I look at the budget to actuals, you provided us as well, thank you. Your anticipated actuals for salary is almost 47 million, 46.68. That's a $3.6 million difference when I believe the FTEs in the district did not grow this year. That's a very substantial change when your contractual increases were, I believe, 2% for
3%.
3% for
3%.
NE and K.
Yeah.
So that's a little over,
And
not quite a million,
3% for ESP.
right, which is a much smaller amount.
Mhm.
So all of that rolled up and admin increases is not even half of a 3.6 million. So I'm just trying to understand how the actual projections are 3.6 million more from last year's actual with only 3% basic increases. I'm not saying to answer
Wait,
that now because our meeting's about over. I'm just throwing it out there that that seems like a very significant increase.
Oh, can you just
Between
run that by me
25
one more
act-
time? You lost me a little in there, sorry.
Your 25 actuals from what
Mhm.
you presented
Mm-hmm.
was, for the 51,110, was 43,026,900.
Okay.
Your anticipated in the PDF you sent us, anticipated 2026 totals for the 51 salary line is 46,688. That's almost 3.7 million growth in 1 year. When FTEs as a whole did not grow, I understand there was 3% salary increases, but 3% of 40 million is only 1.2 million. So how is it growing 3.6 million?
We didn't pay out all of our, like, we had a lot of
We
Yeah,
had
I was
a lot
gonna
of
say-
we had a lot of
we had a lot of
vacancies.
vacancies in 25, so I just wanna make sure I'm understanding what you're saying, cause I feel like I keep getting lost at the very.
I'm just trying to understand
You're
the
saying,
Why our
variance
salaries
between
are
your
so much more this year
26
than last year?
and 26 anticipated
The-
and your 25 actuals.
26 anticipated as of the document that I did
Correct.
like at the beginning of this meeting.
The one
Yes.
that you sent to us this
Okay,
afternoon.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying,
that
okay.
one, yeah.
If we could just make that as a,
But wouldn't you wanna look at the budget number from 25, because that's truly like filling all the positions? If we didn't have positions filled though, that's why the actuals
Right, we
don't
had-
line
we had-
up,
right, but
and
my
that's $1
point
million
is,
difference,
We had,
more than $1
when
million
all was said and done, I
difference.
think we were close to $1 million over in our salaries at the end of fiscal
Mhm.
25. That accounted for a very large part.
I'm
to
just
me.
going off what the actuals were and what you sent for 9/30.
And keep
But
in
our
mind,
actuals were like $1 million less than what our budget was because of vacancies, correct?
correct.
Yeah.
Right, so then
Correct.
you can't really compare it.
So when you look at,
You can compare it, Sherry, by going, the analysis, what was the vacancy rate in 25, what's the current vacancy rate here?
we had, when I did the budget for 26, we had one
Yeah,
vacancy in 26. So when I look at what we had to put in the budget when we were looking
I
at
understand that,
anticipated
Leslie.
and where we are,
I'm not talking about the budgeted amount.
no,
of
and
26.
where we are right now in the
Yes.
actuals of 26, we have one vacancy, and I think that actually is not even a vacancy anymore. And it was, I think it was a special ed teacher position that's now since been filled in that. So that's gonna show, that's a huge disparity right there of $1 million. Then we have the increases of 3% for both contracts.
Correct,
And then,
which is 1.4 million roughly. I just, we don't have,
think it'd be
I
higher
would
than
just
that,
request
actually.
that we add this item
Mhm,
when we will have even more fidelity
mhm.
on the actuals as for the April meeting.
So do you want to table it to the April meeting?
I know what, well, yes, if we're going to if we're going to move it to the April meeting, yes, thank you.
All right, you wanna make a motion to table it to April?
Well, you already discussed it, so you're not tabling anything. You're just
Oh.
gonna
Yeah, we don't
add it.
table
You
it.
Just add it, all right,
You're just continuing that conversation.
got it. that make sure I do all the right.
And if you wouldn't mind, if you could just put that in an email
Yeah, I will.
to me, because
Sure.
I don't know
No, I
why,
get
for
it.
some reason, it is not
Yeah, no, I will. I will.
connecting, right?
Yeah, no, I will.
So,
Thank you.
I just wanna make sure I'm answering your question correctly.
Can we also, well, it's not, oh, never mind, it's not on the thing.
Should we put it in the email?
Well, it's technically under FY '26 budget. Is, we submitted questions, and
Oh,
you may have gotten answers, but I don't know if we did. Did you?
oh, we did.
Oh, you know what, no, they did, you did, and it was in the folder that only school committee has access to, so I apologize.
Oh,
I will get
okay.
them out to you. So, yes, the answers were done and they were submitted, and they're in a folder that, neither of you have access to.
You're talking about the questions from last
Yes.
meeting.
So I apologize, I will get those out to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. In an effort to get them out and be timely for the meetings and to make sure that we were doing them, I was kind of in the habit of putting everything in that folder. And so they are included in questions that were completed, but, I will send them out separately, I'll email them out.
Okay, thanks.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 5-minute break. I'll be-